What is going on, everyone? I want to talk about Jimmy Butler and the Sixers, and I know I stated, listen, there's going to be a lot of noise, there's going to be a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation. Just be responsible for the sources that you hear and be responsible for the information that you consume. And with that being said, Zach Lowe is a very respected NBA insider. Brian Windhorst is a personality on ESPN. I don't rank him as high as Woj and Shams and Zach Lowe, but they had a discussion together in regards to the Sixers and their approach to Jimmy Butler, and there's a possibility that the Sixers might not offer the full five. Max money, yeah. The full five, no. They're looking at 4 years with the max money, and it's a possibility. I have some audio cut from the discussion that I will play, and that just bothers me. It bothers me if Elton Brand was to talk that talk, but then be afraid of 1 year at the end of the contract. Listen, it's this simple. Is 5 years a lot for Jimmy Butler? 5 years, 190 for Jimmy Butler at his age? Sure, absolutely. But you need to bring in Jimmy Butler, and he's going to get the max no matter where he goes. You got to bring back Jimmy Butler, and if you're willing to go 4 years, what's the extra one? It's either 5 years or none. You gotta get Jimmy Butler. You gotta bring him back. So I can't imagine Elton Brand playing around. There's so many teams. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Knicks. There's so many teams that can offer him 4 years at the max amount of money. If we do that, if we're just in the mix with everybody else, well, he's not going to come here. That's pretty much pushing Jimmy Butler out the door, saying, I don't know if you're worth the five. I don't know if you're worth that to us. And he's simply going to go elsewhere. The fact of the matter is, the 5th year, the 5 years, 190, that is a difference maker for Jimmy Butler staying here. And let's take a listen to what Brian Windhorst had to say about the speculation of the Sixers and Jimmy Butler.
I believe that they will offer him a max salary. I do not know if they will offer him a max years. If they offer him max years, I think he stays. If they offer him less than the full 5 years guaranteed, let's watch things get interesting.
All right, there you go. There you have it. And I know that's a simple report, right? That's a simple thing to say. If they don't offer him the max, then things might get interesting. Of course, I understand that. But you talk that game about let's run it back. Let's bring everyone back. You talk that game that we have this path and we have this vision and it will all make sense soon. Well, if that is the case, okay. But you can't be playing around with 1 year. You can't be playing around. Just go get your guy. You eat the 1 year at the end of the contract. And we laugh at CP3, right? We laugh at Chris Paul's contract. I can't believe he's making that much money. At the end of the day, though, with his play, it's not abysmal. It's not embarrassing. It's not like he can't get himself on the floor. Chris Paul can still play at his age. Is the contract a little hefty? Absolutely, and we can all make fun of it, but he's still worthy on the floor. He can still provide something for his team. And Jimmy Butler, that's what we're looking at the back end of this contract, is similar to Chris Paul. But if you had Chris Paul at his age on your team, he's still working for you. He still adds something to your squad. So you just eat that part of it late. There's no reason to play around. And if you ask me, Bruce, how do you really feel this is happening? I think it's obvious. Elton Brand is going to offer him the 5 years because it's understood. It's understood that you bring him in here, you pay him the full max. The reason why he will stay here is because he has that extra year, because that's a lot of money to turn down. And it's just that simple to me. Let's hear more on Windhorst and the Sixers.
Keeping the Philly team together, re-signing Tobias Harris, J.J. Redick, and Jimmy Butler could cost this team $400 million in new salary commitments. And they've also got Ben Simmons doing an extension this summer. And, of course, Joel Embiid coming up in another year. I don't know if they can afford all of that, but if they bring this team back intact, they could win the title next year. And that's what's facing them right now.
See, I think it is a lot of money, obviously. But I think that's Elton Brand's concept. I think that's Elton Brand's idea. Let's just bring everyone back. Maybe something like J.J. Redick might be replaced. I hear Terrence Ross. Maybe pieces like J.J. Redick does go away, but you bring in another three-point shooter, something like that. But when it comes to Tobias and when it comes to Jimmy Butler, my belief is he is trying to run it back. And the 4-year thing, it just irritates me. If that is true, if it comes down to Jimmy Butler hearing, well, the Sixers aren't offering the full year, that would bother me because of all the talk you mentioned with, we have a path, we have a game plan, let us execute it, and you will see the results. You didn't like our draft? Okay, well, just wait big picture because we're going to bring it all back. Those type of, situations makes me realize, okay, they have to be bringing it back. That's the only simple answer. They are bringing it back, and they are bringing Jimmy Butler back into play. There is a lot of discussions about, Tobias Harris. Is he worth it? Is he worth the money? I think he didn't perform to the highest level he was capable of doing. You got to keep in mind he didn't have a full year with this team. I still bring Tobias Harris back as well. He is very valuable. He's 26 years old. He's a great forward position. He can rebound, which goes very unnoticed. He can shoot the ball. He had an underwhelming season when it came to shooting in big situations. I understand that. I'm still bringing Tobias Harris back. Here's Windhorst on Tobias.
I talked to a team about this yesterday. I said, is Tobias Harris a max player? I got, probably not.
Probably not. Probably not. But here's the thing. If you don't pay him, he leaves. Now, Tobias Harris is more replaceable than Jimmy Butler is because of that dog mentality, because of that fourth quarter Jimmy, because of that veteran leadership. But it comes down to value in the free agency market. That's what it comes down to. Is he worth it? Well, I can name you a bunch of guys that aren't worth the money that they're getting paid. Realistically, LeBron, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, those type of players, yeah, absolutely, they're worth that money. There's a ton of people. Like, I love Kemba Walker. Is Kemba Walker worth a max? Is Super Max? Is D'Angelo Russell worth a max? Is Kyrie Irving worth a max? I mean, they're great players, and I'm not knocking them, but they're not LeBron, they're not Kawhi, they're not Kevin Durant. There's a different tier, and that tier of guys, yeah, they're worth maxes. I can argue that anybody else in the NBA is not worth a max outside of those players. So, yeah, you're going to have to overpay for guys, but you want to run it back, then you're going to have to pay a lot of money to do so. Let's see here. There's a couple different clips that I wanted to discuss. Windhorst's perspective on Butler and the Sixers.
What I think Jimmy Butler wants is to get a 5-year max contract from Philadelphia. And the way Philadelphia feels pressured to do that is if he has other legitimate options that he might walk for. I think that's what Jimmy Butler wants. And I think Philadelphia could end all of this on Sunday night with a 5-year offer. But are they willing to go to that level for a guy who can't get that same offer elsewhere and has had injury history in the past?
Listen. Take it for what it is. It's Windhorst. There is some Zach Lowe conversation between the two throughout these cuts, but there's a lot of clips that I dove through. It's easy to realize the situation. If we don't go balls to the wall at 5 years, he realistically probably will not be here. You have other teams. You have other teams that will offer him the same amount of money for 4 years. That 5th year, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for that 5th year. And you're running it back with a team that you just saw and just played with that can compete at a high level. And you can bring back these young stars that have another year under their belt, that have another playoff run under their belt, that have an extra little bit of motivation because the way that they fell in the playoffs. It's simple. Go out and sign up for 5 years. I don't want to hear anything about, well, if you can get rid of that 1 year, that would be great. Sure, guess what? I'm not playing around with fire. I'm not letting him hear other people. If that 5th year is that important, I sacrifice that one season of a lot of money for the rest of the contract. If you make it to the finals, the first 2 of 3 years, where are you going to argue with the 4th and 5th? You just need to realize you're going to have to overpay. You're going to have to overpay for a guy from 30 to 35. But he's a great player. He's a difference maker player. He's a player that makes big shots. He changed the attitude of this team. I don't want to hear the nonsense that he's a team cancer. There's a different type of atmosphere and culture that this Sixers team has. Minnesota, Andrew Wiggins, come on. They don't have the same type of feel when it comes to the game. They don't have the same type of mindset when it comes to winning championships. They're not in the ready to win now type mode. This Sixers team is. They're ready to compete at the top of the Eastern Conference. Moral of the story is, if I find out that Elton Brand did not pursue at the 5th year, I will be extremely disappointed, and he would be a fraud, in my opinion, based off of the way that he's been speaking to the media, talking about trusting the plan of his, and seeing that it would all make sense. It's simple. It's simple. It's been a common thing I said throughout, but it is obvious. It's simple. You put out the full 5, so he has to decline the money. Because this, it talks. It talks. So, let me know your thoughts down below on this. You can play around with 4. You can't. You got to go 5 to get the guy. Go 5. Go 5. That's how it's going to have to be. It's going to be an interesting ride. Let me know your thoughts. See you next time.